Welcome, everyone, to the Group Dentistry Now show. I'm Bill Neumann. And as always, thanks for watching us or listening in. Uh, we are going to talk about an event that we're really proud of. We've partnered with HR for Health now since 2021, and we do our Emerging Groups to Watch Awards at the DSO Leadership Summit. And you probably have seen Jill Hasselman. If you've been to the event before, you certainly have seen her there if you work with HR for Health. But Jill, thanks for being on the show. I'm really excited to talk about our 2024 DSO Leadership Summit in Atlanta.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always great to be on.
Yeah, it's been a while. Jill's been busy. I normally talk to her quite a bit, and it's been a little while. So I know she's busy. She is the Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at HR for Health.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's
so
been
what
a
do you
busy year.
what's your
Lots
role
of
at
travel.
HR for Health, Jill? What do
So
you
my
what's
role is to essentially cultivate all of our strategic partnerships. So all of our third-party relationships, Group Dentistry Now being one, and working with a lot of our partners that we also bring into the summit, like Henry Schein One, Dental Intel. Any companies that really can help complement what we're doing at HR for Health, which is trying to make running these groups easier, better, faster, stronger. And so, yeah, that's my day to day. And it's really fun how it bleeds over into the event. And again, being able to bring all of our partners in that we really trust and know are going to treat our customers or, potential customers well and bring in great products for them.
so maybe we should take a second to talk about the history of the DSO Leadership Summit. This goes back a while. We've been a partner since 2021, but the leadership summits existed for quite a while before that. Jill, maybe a couple of minutes on just how the leadership summit started.
Yeah. So Ralph Tamandel, our COO, really helped to start this event while he was working at a company called Group Dentistry now called 1-800 Dentist. And so the event has been around for about 10 years now, give or take with COVID. And around COVID, we were trying to figure out, Ralph had come over to HR for Health. We were trying to figure out what do we do with this event? How do we really keep it going? And that's when we teamed up with Group Dentistry Now to say, let's really kind of rebrand this, bring this over to HR for Health, get Group Dentistry Now involved, and really tap into these groups that maybe are overlooked or don't have an event that are really catering to them. And so I think that's what we're really proud about this partnership and how we put on the event. And all of these years where we've come, it started in a really small room with a few people. And now, we're pushing 600 people each year. So it's been very cool to see the growth. And what we're looking forward to in 2024 is, to continue that momentum. And again, really kind of tap into there's so many groups out there that people don't even know about. Bill and I talk about that a lot. And so how do we make sure that they feel seen, they get the help and the content and the education that they need? And so that's where we're at now, about 10 years later.
Yeah, and just I think probably go into the details of this year's event right now, and then I'm going to circle back on what you're saying about the
Yeah.
attendees because it's so important, and one of the reasons that Group Dentistry Now partnered with HR for Health for the DSO Leadership Summit. But details of this year's event: September 26th through the 28th in
Yep.
Atlanta, Georgia. So easy to get to, direct flight from just about anywhere in the country. And it's at the
Right.
Marriott Marquis, which I've stayed at for Hinman meeting in the past and many others. It's right downtown Atlanta. Really convenient, really cool hotel. We'll get it, but those are the details. So make sure that you block off September 26th through the 28th, and also we've got a special code here at Group Dentistry Now that will save you more money than anywhere else. So if you use GDN 2024, you'll save $200. I'll drop that a couple of times throughout the show, but those are the details. And yeah, we're really excited. I think it's going to be a great venue. Some really cool. We go through a planning session just about every other week with HR
Mhm.
for Health, and just some of the really cool things. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Really different and cool ways. I think that you're not going to see this type of event and really anywhere else. It's a totally different experience. Um, So back to kind of why why GDN Group Dentistry now is a partner with HR for Health. I attended this event years and years ago, and kind of back to your earlier point, Jill. I was at the event as an attendee, and there were all these groups that were there in the audience with me, and I had never heard of any of them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, you have 20 locations, you have 7 locations. Like, how have I've never heard of you before? And so it really does bring out a different audience, a lot of doctor owned, doctor led groups that are scaling up and are looking for solutions and also looking to talk with groups that are in the same situation as they are. So that's what I think is really different about the event. Different audience, really.
Yeah, definitely different audience, and because of that we really try to tailor the content to that audience. I think that we even have been going back and forth this year of the title of the event is DSO Leadership Summit, and we went back and forth of, well, do we take the word DSO out because the connotation that has, and we really are trying to help some of the smaller to mid-sized groups, the growing groups that are that 7 location, 10 location where I don't, I know I want to grow. I'm kind of at this interim period where I could go a few different directions, and what do I do? And so we wanted to really bring in speakers that are going to help not to just work through those issues or, questions, but also that are their peers. That's a big thing that I always have to credit Bill and Kim with, is really pushing us of, okay, let's get the perspective of the DSOs or the emerging groups or mid-sized groups or whatever you want to call them, to be able to ask these questions, interact with the audience, have it be where it really is this sense of community of, hey, I'm going through the same thing that you're going through. And so again, we debated, should we drop the DSO? There's too much of a brand recognition around it, so we kept it. But I think one of the things Bill and I want to make sure the audience knows is, if you have 2 locations or 3 locations, we are keeping that size in mind when we're crafting the education, because we realize that there aren't a ton of resources, there aren't a ton of events that are giving those size groups that really kind of specialized focus of where they're at in their group. So that's something I'm really proud of, that we work really hard to do. And again, partnering with Group Dentistry now and having the Emerging Groups to Watch Award, which we'll talk about a little later, is a great kind of springboard into being able to do that. So again, you'll hear a lot from these DSOs on stage, and we talk with them about, what questions do you have? How do you really want to moderate this session? So it's coming from a group that's asking these questions of the speakers, or it's a group that's represented that is, speaking on their experiences and not just having the sunshine and rainbows and everything's great, but really, yeah, I don't have the same resources as somebody that has 200 locations. How am I still seeing success, and sharing those kind of nuggets that the attendees can walk away with?
Yeah, I think that's certainly an important note there, is that you're not going to be watching somebody on stage that has tenfold the number of locations that you have. You're going to see a lot of your peers up there, so you can learn how they've been successful, or maybe some of the challenges that they're having right now that may be similar to yours. uh, and then also, and we'll talk about the networking, and that to me is just almost as important, might be more important to some people than the content,
Right.
but equally as important for sure.
Yeah.
Um, the opportunity for attendees to talk to some of these their peers, whether they're just attendees or whether they're actually up on stage as well. But I think that's
Mhm.
the another thing that really stood out to me when I was an attendee at the event, is who was on stage were not the same old people that you see at a lot of the different shows out there. It's not the same
Right.
speakers. It's very relatable speakers, people that are in the same situation that you are, or maybe, they're a couple practices, advanced, right? Or maybe they've got a C-suite in place and they just put them in place and you're thinking about doing that. So I just think it's really, a different type of meeting. And again, I keep going back to why we have become partners, is there are a lot of meetings out there now in the DSO space. It seems like every other week there's a meeting, and every other week there's a new meeting, and so it becomes a real challenge to decide on which ones to attend. And I think that DSO Leadership Summit is one that is unique and worthwhile attending. You're going to hear different content there, and also there are going to be some differences this year compared to years past. And I think we'll talk. You want to talk a little bit about how things are going to be a little bit different this year?
Yeah, so we, every year we survey our attendees year over year. And what we got back overwhelmingly last year was I really liked the content that was happening on main stage. In prior years, we've only just had main stage content. So everybody's in the same room the whole time and all listening to the same sessions. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And we do want to keep pieces of that format where we will have main stage content that is really powerful content. But what was happening is that what we were talking about on main stage, because of what we're describing of kind of this vulnerability and this realness of these are my struggles, these are my questions that I have, it was creating more questions from the audience that they wanted to drill in deeper to. So this year, we are doing a breakout session format as well as main stage content. So we are being very intentional with the breakouts because we know that it can be, well, which one do I pick? Where do I go? Is this really relevant to me? And so what we're doing is we're really going to tee up on main stage those breakout sessions. So we are going to have the similar sessions, which I know we'll talk about the agenda a little bit more in detail and some of the examples of, what we're bringing on that main stage and how that feeds into the breakouts. But we want those questions that are happening that we see the attendees putting through on the app, as we're live on main stage that we can't get to, or it is more granular. So we're going to give that opportunity to build on what we're talking about and go out and have a few breakout sessions that are really specific to what we just talked about on main stage to kind of complete that circle of, okay, these are the questions I had. Now I get to talk in a smaller environment with my peers, with some of these experts, or be able to pick their brains. And I think it's going to be a really great format to, and our venue allows us to do this, have more room to do that, have those different, smaller sessions. So I'm really, really excited about that because, again, we want to listen to what our attendees want. We want to make sure that if you guys are really connected to what we're talking about on stage, we want to give you more time to be able to really dive into what those pieces are.
And it is a great venue. Like I said, I've been at the Marriott Marquis many times in Atlanta, and easy to get to from the airport, kind of in the heart of everything. But just a lot of flexibility to do things, like have those breakout sessions.
Right. And I
And
think the other
yep,
piece that we haven't necessarily done in years past, we focused very heavily on the business side because of our audience, like Bill was describing. It's people who maybe just put a C-suite in, it's doctor-owned practices where they might get a lot of clinical information elsewhere and they really want the business side. This year, we're doing more of a blend. So that's also based on attendee feedback. So we're going to be mixing that clinical and business side because of course they go hand in hand, but bring more of a taste of that. And you'll see that in some of the breakout sessions we do, some of the main stage stuff, some of the, outside of the general agenda for the conference. You'll see a lot of that mixed in so that you can take, again, as much practical information back to your group when you are back on Monday from beautiful Atlanta, assuming you want to stay the whole weekend. But I'm very excited about that too, because it's something our attendees have been asking for.
So, and DSO Leadership Summit is also known for its parties, for sure. There's always great after hours events. So,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about one of the after parties, which I think is going to be, and I've also been to this venue before. It's a lot of fun. So, what
Yeah.
does this year's party look like?
Yeah, so I have to give a little bit of backstory because the woman that heads up a lot of our event planning, she lives in Atlanta. She's done events for Delta and Coca-Cola and just has really killed it with some of those other parties that she's thrown in these events. And so when we were deciding our venue, she's like, let's do it in Atlanta. I can make this so amazing. It's my city. I know where, I know everybody. I know how to make this awesome. And so her best recommendation was to do this at the Georgia Aquarium, which I'm so excited about because I've never been. I'm a huge, dork when it comes to whales and sharks and all of that. So it's going to be really, really cool. We're going to be in a room where it's the tanks with the whale sharks. We'll have divers in there. It's going to be a really awesome party. We're going to actually switch our format up a little bit. Usually we do that party on the night of the first all day content. So usually that Friday night. This year, we're going to kick it off with a bang. We're going to have that party on Thursday night. So we start off on the right foot and just be able to honor our emerging groups to watch and be able to bring everybody together and start it off with a really fun note. So I'm super excited. Again, I've never been, I've only seen photos, but it seems like it's going to be really, really awesome.
So beyond the parties, which are important as well, let's talk about some of those sessions that you had mentioned. And so we've got the general conference going on, but you've got some other events going on, several. So why don't you dig
Yeah.
into those a little bit, just in case people are looking to attend the DSO Leadership Summit, but there's so much more than just that general conference.
Yeah. So on the first day, so everybody usually flies in on Thursday. That's the 26th. And they fly in early or they're already there. They're close by, especially with how easy it is to get to Atlanta. And so on the day of registration, so September 26th, we do have two different sessions that are running and they don't start until 12 o'clock, the first one. So it allows people to still have time to get in. And this is where you're going to kind of see that blend of business and clinical. So on one side, we will have Plan Mecca. They are bringing in a really awesome speaker to talk about how to incorporate CBCT into your practice. So the foundations of that, how to apply it. So in more of a clinical piece that will close that loop with the business side. And then on the other hand, we have Tusk and Dykema doing a workshop focusing on how to exit at the top. And this I'm really excited about for a couple reasons. One is this is brand new content. So they actually haven't presented this content together. This is the first time they're going to be doing it is at our event. So really excited for that piece to get, as Bill mentioned, we try to have fresh ideas, fresh information to make sure it's really relevant to what's going on. And then the other piece I think is where we're at right now with the economy and the way that these deals are happening. I think a lot of people have questions around, well, what does my exit strategy look like now? How do I make sure that I'm set up? My plan to exit in 5 years might not be exactly what I initially had envisioned. And so this workshop's really going to dig into that. So that's the day of registration. Everything's done by 4 o'clock so that everyone can get over to the party. We'll have transportation, of course, for anybody that does want to attend those workshops. So when you register, you can add those workshops on. You'll see that. And then also we're going to have on Saturday morning, the 28th, we're going to have a couple breakfasts that we also saw a lot of engagement with that last year. We were actually really surprised with how many people showed up for those. The feedback we got from attendees was, I wish there was more room in the room. And so we're kind of pouring gas on that, making sure that people still have access to those things. So one is put on by OrthoFi talking about, this same store growth theme. Bill and I hate the word same store growth. We're like, we can't hear it again, but that concept that resonates with people. How do I bring ortho into my practice? How do I really apply this? And a lot of business aspects, again, that blend of clinical too. And then Black Talon, who is awesome. Cybersecurity is such a hot topic. They are going to be, they're going to have presence throughout the event. HR for Health as a compliance company, while we do HR compliance, there are so many parallels between the compliance for cybersecurity, making sure that your team is trained, that you're protected. And so Black Talon is doing a more focused session before the main content starts so that people can ask questions, because it is really confusing as a technology company, again, with HR for Health, we know that there's so much you have to go through to really be protected and have your softwares be buttoned up. And so we wanted to give our attendees some access to that, which is more, hands-on, one-on-one. So those are some of the pieces that we have outside of our general conference agenda, which runs all day the 27th and the half day on the 28th.
Thanks, Jill. Probably a good place for me to mention you can go to dsosummit.com or dsoleadershipsummit.com, but go to dsosummit.com. You don't have to type in
Yeah.
as much. And
Yeah.
then again, the code is GDN 2024, save $200. I'll mention that one more time at the end. Let's talk about the general conference agenda as well. I mean, there's some discussions, panel discussions that you do every single year that you're going to continue to do. Like I love the DSO diagnosis. I hope that's coming back because that was, one of my favorites when I was an attendee and still is. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So we're going to do that again. Can you explain maybe to people that haven't been there what DSO diagnosis is and maybe some of the other general session
Yeah.
panel discussions and sessions that are going to be going on?
Yeah. So DSO diagnosis is one of those panels that pulls out the most questions from the audience. That's really where we wanted to bring in workshops to supplement afterwards. And the way that the DSO diagnosis works is that we have about 4 panelists on stage that are all experts in different areas. So, finance and accounting, legal and HR, operational systems. How do I implement technology? People who are really experts in that area that work with groups every single day on those topics. The moderator is a DSO that is, queuing up these questions. But how this panel works is we survey our DSO attendees prior to going into the event. And we ask them questions in these different areas of where do you need help? And it's real to their actual group of what they're going through. And so then from there, we select a couple groups. We actually bring them up on stage and they are able to ask the panel of experts their different questions. And it can be in any areas of their business. Like I mentioned, we have everything from operations, technology, legal, the practical business application. And that's where our attendees start to go, well, I also have those questions. I also want help, with my situations that I'm going through. And so that's what really opens up the room and kind of sets the tone of we are here to be vulnerable, ask the questions, because if you can't ask now, when can you ask them? And so I agree with Bill. I can't take credit for coming up with the idea, but I just have to double down on it every year when we're figuring out our agenda because it is so impactful for our audience. So we are doing that again. Another one that was a huge buzz last year was our point counterpoint panel. So this is one moderated by Brian Kaleo, who is hands down one of the best moderators out there. He really pulls out the answers from the panelists without, letting them get away easy. Last year, what we did was we had a conversation of private equity versus individually owned groups. So not taking money from private equity. It got a lot of buzz in terms of really going head to head. We position it as Brian is always playing devil's advocate. Even if you make a good point, there's always a flip side to that. So it's kind of that debate style. Really fun. This is one of the only panels that we don't have a prep call with all of the speakers on it at once. We do it individually with each of the panelists. So they don't necessarily know what the other one's going to say. So it's real and raw while it's on stage. This year, we have not announced our groups or the topic yet because it's that anticipation. It's one of those really sought after panels, but I can tell you it's going to be just as good as last year. And we will be focusing on, what the present, I think, struggle is, which is, do I buy more practices or do I not? So I'll give you a little teaser there before we, release that, but really, really excited about that one and being able to bring that back. It was like standing room only last year when that panel was going on. So Bill, I don't know if you have any memories from that, but it was a fun one.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's always there's always a lot of back and forth and excitement, and I think people pile in just to see some fireworks. So
Well, the
uh,
drama, you got to have it. Keeps everybody after lunch. You come in, you just had a really nice lunch we just served, and this is the way that we pep everybody up. So, really excited about that. Also, going into these pieces of, we've gotten a lot of feedback on, I want to be a better leader. How do I incorporate that into my practice without too much, woo woo, feel good stuff that's not really my vibe, or that is my vibe? How do I lean into that? So we'll have some experts in, building leadership skills that will also be on main stage and kind of funneling into some of our breakouts. Another thing that we haven't really touched on, I don't see touched on a ton in these events, is the topic of embezzlement. Again, as a compliance company dealing with the team, that's something that is a real risk that we want to make sure we're addressing. So that's going to be, we're not going to have it be a boring session. I know embezzlement can seem like, well, it's just numbers and the accounting piece, but really practical stories of people who have been in groups that are experts in finding embezzlement. We actually have a person from the FBI that's there that is talking about how they learn these pieces, what they look for when they're doing these investigations. So it's going to be really fun, and people that you probably haven't seen on stage speaking about this topic. Couple other things on main stage. One is going to be our marketing segment that Kim and Bill really have helped us to kind of cultivate. And this is going to be more of this bridge between artificial intelligence and marketing, bringing, again, this is representatives from DSOs that are talking about how they're doing this. What's the future of the technology? How is that impacting how you're getting new patients and keeping them? And then last but not least, cybersecurity. I know I mentioned this we're going to have some, that breakout early in the morning or during breakfast, but then we're actually going to go through a simulation of what happens if there is a breach, and going through live with the audience of kind of seeing what these teams have to do in action when this stuff happens. So it's going to be, maybe a topic you've heard before, but probably not in a format that you have. And Gary is just awesome from Black Talon, like really knows his stuff. And in my opinion, makes it very digestible and feeling like, okay, I know what I need to do, even if this is kind of a scary topic. And then when we look at the breakouts, which again is a new format that we're doing this year that will be paired with some of these main stage sessions, we are bringing in some of those more classic questions that we get a lot about of, one, just how do I make myself attractive for new employees, for keeping employees? Of course, that's such a big topic right now. So we're bringing in some breakouts of, well, how are you structuring your benefit plans? What does your health insurance look like? 401k, workers' comp? How do you save money as a group and really have a smart way of structuring these types of benefits? Because it does cost a lot of money to do that. And so we want to be able to give tips and tricks on how to do that right, by making, again, yourself more attractive to these employees that you want to retain or you want to attract to come work for you, and also saving the business money. And kind of on the connection with that, we're having another breakout that is specifically focused on how to build compensation plans. So we're actually going to have Vanessa Buheit from Small Town Dental. She knows her stuff like nobody else I've met, and she's going to be bringing in real examples of the comp plans that she has put together that work for her business or work for her group. Again, 11 location group, not a massive group, but really successful in how they've been able to build their revenue by being really strategic with those comp plans that they've created. And so we want our attendees to leave with, okay, if I want to change my current comp plan, how do I do that? How do I actually implement this? What does a good comp plan even look like? So that, I think, our attendees are really excited about, because it's kind of the $1 million question of, what do my team, what do people want? How do I get them to work for me? On the other side, we're doing a lot with the analytics. So we're bringing in Dental Intel and, again, another DSO to actually represent what should you be looking at in terms of your analytics, and really being hands-on of, they're going to help pull analytics, look through those, understand how to interpret them. So really hands-on from what we'll be talking about on main stage to get that piece across. Another one I'm very excited about is a new company that kind of has popped up that focuses on net promoter scores, which is a huge thing in the technology space. Like if you're a technology company, you know what an NPS is. That hasn't really been translated to the dental offices and what that patient experience looks like. And so there's a DSO that's coming in that's going to talk about how have they measured their patient satisfaction on a continuous basis. It's very easy for the patient to give that feedback and measure that. And then how has that helped to increase that revenue for whether it's existing locations, opening new ones. So that's a angle, at least I personally have not seen at these events, which is it's not just about your patients coming back, but how happy are they with the offices that you have? How much are they spending? Really bridging all of those pieces that we ultimately care about, and how are we measuring if we're giving good service, since we're all in the service industry. And then the last but not least, probably the most exciting one, is the emerging groups to watch breakout. So I wanted Bill to actually highlight what the Emerging Groups to Watch Award is first, and how are these DSOs getting this honor? What do they have to do? And then we'll kind of talk about how we're folding that into the event.
Thanks, Jill. So, again, this goes back to really why we're partners with DSO Leadership Summit. As group dentistry now started out, there wasn't a lot of, back in 2014, there wasn't a lot of DSO content at all. There was just not much out there. If there was anything out there, it wasn't really positive. So we wanted to be a positive voice for the DSO industry. And then what we realized is that there was, a lot of content and information about the larger DSOs, but not so much out there about these emerging dental groups, these doctor-owned, doctor-led 3, 10, 20 location groups, just out there doing their thing. So we, in 2017, thought it would be great to celebrate these emerging groups. And that's really where the emerging dental groups to watch list or award came out. And so it really was just a list, unfortunately, on our website back in 2017. But we were recognizing these emerging groups, and our editorial board would go through a list of applicants. People would submit this relatively long application. And our editorial board, who were from some of the larger groups out there and some smaller groups, were able to kind of go through these applications, and then every year we would have these winners listed on our website, and it became a really big deal. And then in 2021, of course, we were able to celebrate these awards in person at the DSO Leadership Summit for the first time, and have continued on. So we're gonna we're gonna have a breakout session this year, and this is new. We've always been able to celebrate these awards since 2021 and the winners at the DSO Leadership Summit, but we really never gave the winners the ability to actually talk about their groups. So during this breakout session this year in Atlanta, you'll get to hear from all of the 2024 winners. And so it's going to be a big breakout session. There's going to be, and I'll go through the attendees, or the winners, I should say, that will also be attending the event in Atlanta, the DSO Leadership Summit. Aereo Dental Group will be there, Blue Sage Dental Group, Commonwealth Mobile Oral Health Services. We have Freedom Dental Management from Delaware. We have Impression Dental Group from Australia will be there.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that is a big one. We appreciate them coming all the way across the globe to
Yeah.
speak at the event and receive the award. Southern Family Dental Partners as well. And then we also have Strain Dental Management. So they'll all be receiving their awards on the main stage, which is different than we've done in years past. So they'll be doing it during the event. And then during the breakout session, you will get to hear from all of the winners. So super excited about that. I think this is just going to be the best way to really get to understand what these groups have gone through, are experiencing, get to ask them some questions too, and find out, kind of figure out how they got to be on this list. And maybe next year you'll be able to.
Exactly. Yeah. And that, I think, this is one of the pieces where we see our attendees connecting with the emerging groups to watch winners. And we really not just wanted to highlight them, but put them in the driver's seat of talking with their peers of, these are the struggles I've had. This is what I've done to get here. And for those ones that want to become an emerging groups to watch and get that award, really learn from the best and from the horse's mouth of, instead of myself or Bill just saying, this is what you have to do, you'll be able to hear it from the actual people who won. So we're really excited to give that platform to these award winners because they work so hard. Everybody is grinding to build their groups, and some of these that, as Bill mentioned, aren't massive DSOs, but are still doing some really awesome things in their communities and learning how they've been able to strategically grow. So we're really excited to bring that content to the attendees and have them, again, feel like they're walking away with tangible pieces and potentially a goal for themselves that that's where I want to be next year. And I'm sure it will be such a success. We'll keep doing this, and maybe it is you that's on stage next year. So we're excited.
Yeah, so I think with that, last time I'll just say visit dsosummit.com, use code GDN 2024, and you save $200, which is, again, best discount out there. So make sure you use that code. And yeah, we'll see you in Atlanta. I think it's going to be the best attended DSO leadership summit yet, and I really feel like this year, Jill, and let me know how you feel about this. I feel like we've got the format nailed this year. It's like
Yeah.
the best of everything. I love the breakout sessions. I love that the emerging groups are going to get time on stage and the audience is going to be able to talk to them. And the fact that we're doing it, not off site, it's going to be all done, at the Marriott Marquis, and the breakout sessions, I think, are going to really be impactful. The fact that it's not just business, we're bringing clinical into this year. This is going to be a 10.
It is. And I got to say, it's a high bar from last year, and we are up to the challenge to meet that. So it's going to be everything and more from last year, and the learnings that we keep having year over year of what the attendees want. That's really what we focus on. So we're so excited to be in Atlanta, have everyone there with us. As Bill mentioned, if you have any questions, go to dsosummit.com. We're constantly updating the website with new information as we announce things. Get that discount code so you can get yourself registered before the room blocks close out and those sort of things. But yeah, I'm just stoked to be in Atlanta. I've never been to Atlanta for a conference, so I'm very excited to get there and put on this awesome show and just wow the people and keep building on what we've learned from the years past. And the emerging groups to watch is such a glue of what I think really kickstarted this 3 years ago, and we're not looking back. So we're doubling down on it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Well, I think with that, thank you, Jill, for joining us. This
Thank
is,
you.
again, hopefully we'll see everybody that's listening and watching this in Atlanta. I think this is a great event. You definitely don't want to miss this one. I'm really excited for it. Again, I think this one is going to be the best yet. So again, thanks for listening in or watching us. And until next time, this is the Group Dentistry Now Show.